All right, welcome back to another episode. This is going to be unscripted and unhinged. I'm in the mood. It's been a week. I've had a really busy week of lots of work, and I've only been in my new place for literally a week. And so I'm doing my best to try to get like 2 episodes a week, which is much less than what I was doing before. But in principle of what the show is, it's doing what you can in the position you're put in. Keep stoking the fire. Keep just doing you and keep chipping away at the main thing, the main result. Not every episode is going to be perfect. It's more about just getting in the good rhythm, pattern, and just get after it. I do have a podcast later this week scheduled with Jay, which I'm very excited for, and maybe I'll get another episode in. So maybe we get 3. This is an impromptu one. Why? Why might you ask? Well, there's a podcast episode I did not too long ago, and it was on harsh truths or kind lies. And I really want you to think about that for a second. Do you prefer the harsh truth or a kind lie? And it's really hard to swallow that truth pill when it's harsh and it's bitter. It just doesn't go down well. But a kind lie is sweet. So why am I bringing that up? What is strength training? Is F45 strength training? And this one guy, Juddy, I think is his name. I follow him on social because way back when I was an F45 coach, we were told by our boss, oh, you should follow this guy. He's great. He's basically like the F45 spokesperson. Of course, he's going to be on F45 side. And he actually does a decent job. I'll give him his credit of what he's supposed to do. However, he's like, I'm going to start off this video, but we got to talk about the elephant in the room of these influencers attacking F45 for not being strength training. I'm like, what? He's like, just because they're an influencer doesn't mean that they don't have, they don't always have credentials, and, why would they attack us? Well, it's easy clickbait. And it's like, well, or you're not really strength training. It's the honest truth. And I basically said, well, I disagree with you. F45 has been great for something like the community, building up community, and it's active. But in reality, it's not necessarily closer to strength training. We want to think of strength training as strengthening your tissues, your tendons, your muscles, your ligaments, your central nervous system. And the rest doesn't get applied. And his response was, well, clearly you left before there was F45 Lift Club. And I looked it up and it's like, okay, well, yeah, but it says that not many clubs have that. Can you elaborate with sets, reps, and weight? And he's like, well, if you've never experienced it, you can't talk about it. It's like, no, you can tell me the sets and reps. And then he just never replied. And yeah, he was a little butt hurt, which is fine, right? Who am I? You're not, he's not going to reply to everybody. But I just thought it was funny. And there is a harsh truth in reality of these things do matter. And I just want to call a spade a spade. A lot of people have a hard time with seeing reality for what it is. Someone like him, of course he's going to be an F45 spokesman. And I'm not trying to attack F45. All in all, I do miss the community. I really did enjoy working there and the people who I got to work with, both as a trainer and as members. The problem is, when you have these big fitness conglomerates, corporations, they try to sell you a magic pill that is for everything. And there's an integral side to it that I just couldn't get behind. And when they said, oh yeah, F45 is for everybody, it's like, no, HIIT training is definitely not for everybody. You definitely cannot do it for that long. And I even used the argument, well, if F45 is real strength training, why would people leave F45 and within weeks with traditional 5x5 training, which scientifically is what strength training really is, they're hitting PBs with me. And we're not doing any crazy movements. We've actually stripped away the basics. And I said, hey, you know what? This F45 club thing, that sounds great. Why wouldn't you just always do that? He even said, oh, we're not perfect, but we're moving in the right direction. Okay, that's fine. Admit that it was the wrong direction to have HIIT training so often and so frequently, and just move in that right direction. And I said, this is what we've been doing at Temple. Temple tried to out F45. And I joke with the owner, it's like you're trying to out Pizza the Hut. If you get the reference, you can't, literally Pizza Hut's slogan is you can't out Pizza the Hut. And it's very true. So being a small gym, You can play with these ideas. And I knew I needed to show the owner at Temple that strength training is actually really basic and fundamental, but that doesn't mean it's hard. There's beauty in the simplicity. And lo and behold, people are getting crazy strength gains from these 6-week programs. And they're super simple in my head. Because guess what? You can do the same thing the next week and the next week. And it's easier on the trainers. It's easier as a system. It's easier, but yet it's harder because you know to lift heavier weights and you get great strength gains in return. And so when he talks about even F45 as a program, it's not a program because you're doing a different workout every single day. That's not a training program. Those are just workouts. They can be a good workout, but there's no specific rhyme or reason to them at times. And I'm saying this as somebody who's been there for 5 years. So I feel like I have an authority because he's like, well, what are their credentials as influencers? I don't think I'm an influencer. I've been in the industry for 8 years. I have my kin degree and I was a trainer for 5 years. And I've worked with people one-on-one training, different groups, class style training, F45 training. And I can tell you that there's no one magic pill. There's no one size fits all. The problem is, and this goes back to marketing, so many people have told me, oh, you need a niche and you need a market for one thing. Do I? And my buddy Eric does actually a really good job of explaining what I do, is I am really good at finding niche people and adapting to their needs. I'm really more of a jack of all trades. Anyway, besides the point, calling a spade is all I was really trying to do. And I was just texting my one friend, shout out to McKinley, who liked all my comments. I was like, oh, that's funny. And I shot her a message, why'd you like it? She's like, yeah, you tell him who's boss. She's an F45 trader. And so, yeah, I just think that that's funny. And this warrants a great discussion. What is strength training? Strength training is sending adaptation to your tissue to strengthen. What would the literature typically say? Longer rest periods, 2, 3, 4 minute rest periods. Moderate to moderate high weight with moderate to moderate low weight or reps. And keeping it simple. 5x5 would follow that format. Sometimes it's not 5x5. At Temple, we've been doing a lot of 4x4 to 6 reps or 6 to 8 reps, depending on the exercise. There's always going to be nuance to it. And we are doing closer to 2 minutes. In a group setting, it's nuance. You can't always be close to there. And guess what? There's an infinite amount of different ways to strengthen the body. And I'll give F45 its due. You're getting people who come from the couch. Any strength training you do, they will get great results. In fact, going intense will get them results quicker. But why might that be a problem? Quicker to burn out as well. Higher risk of injury. Also, you plateau quicker because now the only thing that you still have left to do is push even more intensity. If you lifting 50 pounds for 3 sets of, let's say, 5, for 1 week, 2 week, and then the next week you go to 55 and then 55 for 2 weeks, and then 60 for 2 weeks, and then 65 for 2 weeks, you're gonna make great gains. But if you go from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 week after week, you might be like, oh, I'm making great gains too. However, you're not giving the body a chance to adapt. You actually might be pushing a little bit too quick, and you can almost get a false sense of security. That's one thing. Eventually, you're gonna plateau with that weight, and your technique is more likely to be less effective. And so sometimes it's a more methodical approach is what we want. And it's perfectly valid that, some people do need to go after it. And some people are only going to go to the gym if they go after it. That's where a good coach can make these adjustments. Even then, with the intensity thing, I see people still doing their F45 workouts 4 or 5 years later, and they haven't changed that much. When I started F45, just for context, I was about 165 pounds. I'm about 195 pounds right now, which I actually don't necessarily look crazy 30 pounds heavier because it's a lot of dense muscle. It's just been this slow, methodical approach of focusing a little bit more of a pump at times, focusing on functional strength at times, basic lifts at times. Hell, I sometimes have thrown in weeks and weeks of just tons of isometrics. I do my deload weeks. I just consistently show up. I will admit that I'm not perfect in my programming. I do need to do a little bit more cardio, just a little bit. I probably also, weirdly enough, even though I get pegged as a mobility guy, need to do more mobility. What is the purpose of this podcast? I wanted to just address that aspect, and it bugged me, and this is like half venting, but I really want you to think about what is strength training and what is the fitness industry trying to sell you. Strength training is when we're trying to strengthen tissue. It's not actually lifting weights. Why? You could be doing cardio with weights. What makes cardio cardio? Getting your heart rate up, getting you to utilize more oxygen, and using oxygen as an energy system. That's what cardio is. When you're not taking long breaks and your heart rate goes up during a strength workout consistently for the whole 45 minutes, you're doing more of a cardio with weights on that spectrum. Sure, you will still get some strength gains. Why? Well, you're lifting a little heavier than when you're with your cardio. That's one thing. Second thing, you're doing more than the average person because, yeah, the average person isn't doing anything. But when you do a different energy system and you lift for 10, 15, 20 seconds real hard and you rest for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you're training your aerobic energy system. You're doing 35 seconds of work and 25 seconds of rest for 4 sets in a row, for 9 exercises in a row. That is going to really tax your heart at some point and your lungs at some point, even if you are lifting weights, that it does kind of morph it a bit more into cardio. Why do we want cardio and weights to be on separate workouts? Most of the time, even though some people come with the, well, concurrent training, it shows that it's not like this, and then there's other studies that do show it. I would just say from anecdotal evidence, and you look at your power lifters, and your strongman competitors, yeah, they do a bit of cardio here and there, but like most of their training is in the aerobic phase where it's like 10 to 20 seconds or even less than 10 seconds. The first 10 seconds is like your creatine phosphate system. And then for the next like minute and a half, it's like the aerobic or anaerobic, sorry. And then after that, it's the aerobic. That's the order. I might have used aerobic and anaerobic, but long story short, it's all about the energy systems that you're trying to train. And sometimes you're trying to train the central nervous system. That's actually what strength training is. And strength training is a skill. And we're trying to practice these movements at 80, 90% intensity. And you need the full rest. So that way you can still lift it with that 80 and 90% intensity.